This is EVN Report, and you're listening to Up Close and Personal, a podcast that goes beyond the bylines and bios. I'm Maria Titizian, and in each episode, I sit down with a guest to explore the full story behind their work, the turning points, the quiet moments, the experiences that have shaped them. Journalists, academics, artists, and more. Some you'll know, some you'll be meeting for the first time. But all of them have something to say if we take the time to listen. Dr. Yervant Zorian is a pioneer, innovator, educator whose work bridges cutting-edge technology and a deep commitment to Armenia's future. As the chief architect at Synopsys, president of Synopsys Armenia, and founder of the Armenian Virtual College, among many other things, Dr. Zorian has spent decades shaping the global tech landscape while fostering educational access for Armenians around the world. He is a world-leading authority in self-repairing electronic systems. I have no idea what this means, but I think it's very important. And he holds about 35 U.S. patents, boasts 350 scientific publications, numerous books. Welcome to the program, Yervant.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
I'm so pleased that you're here with us because, as I was telling you earlier, I had been at a TED event where you had given a TED talk. And it was a brief talk, 10 minutes, as the protocol assumes. And I was really, I really wanted to come up to you afterward and say thank you for the talk. Of course, I didn't, but so I'm glad we have this opportunity.
Yes.
You come from what I would consider to say a prolific Armenian family, a background. I think every Armenian family has such an interesting story to tell. And I'm glad that yours is being told on different platforms in different ways. But you've spent your life building bridges between technology and education, Armenia and the diaspora, the past and the future. What planted that instinct in you?
Back to the family. It was my family. It was my bring up. It didn't come a single day. It came throughout my childhood, through my young years, and I continued with that. And I was not forced, of course, to do it, but it was a choice. But by example, my parents, my grandparents, both sides, they were all very involved in Armenian affairs and in technology as well. Mm-hmm. And for me, the two were very interesting. I was very interested to be an engineer from my childhood. I was very dedicated to Armenia from my childhood. And it was natural. I didn't feel anything wrong about it. Mm-hmm. And until now, I feel it's part of my life.
Well, for those of us of a certain age, before Armenia became independent, we were all very active in our own communities, wherever that happened to be. And then Armenia becomes independent. And I often look back at those days and think, in some ways, it was joyful and unbelievable, but it somehow paralyzed us at the same time. Some aspects, in the sense of how did we fit into Armenia? How did Armenia fit into our identity? Because as diasporans, our identity construction was somewhere else. And I remember the beginning years of independence when I was so desperate to come. And people were saying, what are you going to go do? It's not clear what's going to happen with the country. You were one of those Armenians who were here from the beginning. You came from the 90s. What made you believe that it was possible to believe in Armenia?
I didn't think of Armenia to be anything different than Armenians at large.
Okay.
If we're Armenians in diaspora, here, there, being successful in our communities, and Armenia would have done the same thing because it's made of Armenians. So I had no doubt at any point that Armenia would become a successful entity because it's composed of Armenians. Now, I was deprived before Armenia became independent. I came here as a student. We were university students. We came as a group back in 86. I was doing my work at McGill at the time, my studies. And I was interested in technology. So I wanted to find out, where is this Mergelian Institute? Mm-hmm. Where are these Nairi computers? And so on. We stayed 2 weeks here. We were hosted by Mshagutayin Gabi Komite.
Of course.
As diasporans, they invited us. We came with 25 students. I was the chair of ASA at the time, the Armenian Students Association. We had wonderful time with culture, with museums, with operas, ballets every night. But I was not able to see the Medigerian Institute.
Why?
Because I was coming from Canada. I was not able to see the Nairi computers. Nothing. Technology was not allowed.
Oh, you were not allowed to access it.
So for me, it was a problem because I left here with my first request that I wanted to see my counterparts in Armenia. And that was in 86. When in 91 we became independent as Armenia, my first desire was to find my colleagues. so that's why I was involved from day one, trying to find out who can be my colleagues, who are my colleagues here, how can we collaborate, even without collaborating, how can we know each other. So for me, that independence was what I was maybe waiting for.
It's interesting. Everybody has a different perspective. You were looking at it from that perspective. I was oftentimes, because I was very confused. I remember the day Armenia claimed independence, and we were at our Armenian Community Center in Toronto, and we're supposed to be celebrating. And I didn't understand where I fit into all of that. So it's interesting that you came in guns blazing and looking for your counterparts. It's very interesting. You are considered one of the top experts in, I don't know if I'm saying this properly, microelectronics and system on chip design. Is this right? And you said you were very interested in tech from a young age because it was also part of your family thing. What drew you, other than the family thing? It was just a natural instinct, interest in you, or was there something that triggered that interest in you?
Being in technology, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, the family thing is just engineering at large, if you want. But when I got specialized in semiconductors, in chips, it was my choice. Right? When I was going to go to the university after my high school, actually, I was planning to do architecture. My summers were in an architecture firm at high school, so I was very interested in doing that. There was a young Armenian lady, Maria Tarian, who was my guide, was my teacher. So I wanted to do architecture. My father, a few days before,
it's always the father.
We sat together. He brought me magazines. He brought me data. He showed me the computers. Said, look, Yervant, architecture, you can do it as a hobby. You draw well. No? Why don't you do these computers? This will be the future. Okay. So why don't you go to electrical engineering, electronics, which I did, without knowing that I'll be working in chips or self-repairing chips. And so that came much later.
Yeah, of course.
But my direction towards computers came from my early university track. And then when I did my master's, my PhD, I got more and more specialized to be in chips, because I started to understand that semiconductors or the chips are the future. The transistors are what will move us and so on. And I decided to do that. And when I was going to do my thesis work, my advisor asked me to go and find the topic by myself. So he gave me 3 months. So I went through, and I understood that the health of the chips is something considerably important. And from that time, I decided to be in testing the chips, self-testing the chips, and much later they become self-repairing, self-diagnosing, self-healing, and so on. But it was an early instinct during my later part of my
I'm
studies.
smiling because you talk with such passion about, chips and semiconductors and transistors. What continues to excite you about that field today?
The scale.
Yeah.
It's incredibly scalable. I don't know of any other field that scales that fast. 60 years ago, a chip had a single transistor. Today, NVIDIA's AI chip contains 220 billion transistors.
In one chip?
In one chip.
How does it fit?
With the same size.
Oh, okay.
As it used to be single transistor. Because every year, our industry, our innovation, made sure that we scale. We go half the size, double the speed. Half the size, double the speed. So imagine over 60 years if you do that. Today you have 200 billion transistors. We're moving to trillion very soon. Now, with trillion transistors, or even today, 200 billion, you can do tremendous amount of computation, of memory, of communication, everything you want. Your mobile in your hand is an intelligent device that has many, many functions which used to be separate products at the time. In one chip.
Converged.
That is a single chip that does all these things together. So all these transistors running very high speed gives you a huge amount of power to do lots of interesting things.
You speak with such passion and joy about, and
I
that's,
love it.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
really
I mean,
nice.
and that's such a gift, isn't it, to do what you love to do? And undoubtedly, I mean, without a doubt, I don't know how many ways I can say that. You've had a tremendous impact. You've played a tremendous role in Armenia's tech ecosystem. And, the future lies in knowledge and innovation. We know that. What do you see? This is a very cliche question, but it's one I think that needs to be asked. What do you see as the biggest opportunity and the biggest challenge for Armenia in its tech trajectory today?
The opportunity is that Armenians are creative, and tech needs innovation, creativity. Armenians can be creative in arts, can be creative in literature, but creativity in technology is essential. When you're designing a chip with numerous functions, whether it's a self-driving chip or it's a AI chip, it needs creativity. And Armenians do have that. So that's the advantage that we own. Now, the constraint, the challenge, is that to do impressive work these days, to do real work, you need numbers. If you're designing a new chip, you need a team of 1,000 people to design a single chip. If Amazon is doing its AI chip or Microsoft is doing it, you need lots of people to come together. So for any project, we need numbers of experts. And how many experts can we generate? How does our population allow us to feed that pipeline or not? That's my biggest challenge.
But the biggest challenge that I've heard over and over again, and not only from the tech sector, from every sector in Armenia, is the lack or the absence of human capital, the experts.
Okay? Absolutely.
So, and I oftentimes look at the tech sector. At first, I was annoyed by all of you, to be honest. You come in here with these. That's all right. You come in here with these, these new terms and a new vibe, and for me at first, it's like it's not comprehensible. But the tech industry, the tech sector in Armenia has, overcome huge challenges. But how does it grow? How does it maintain? A country Armenia's size, is it even possible to dream of doing R&D? Is it possible to dream of developing chips?
Actually, we're doing it. It's happening. It's not a dream anymore. It was a dream. Mm-hmm. 30 years ago, 25 years ago.
But is the education system catching up?
So here is the issue.
Yeah.
The education system by itself is not able to do it. However, the education system in partnership with the industry is able to do that. In our company, when we hire people from a partnership of an education system. We work with 5 universities. We started with first and the second and the third. We go inside the university program, inside the bachelor program, the master's program, and so on. And the curriculum is shaped such that it's very advanced and it's also hands-on. So we're not teaching only theory. We're teaching the theory and the practice at the same time. They're using the tools. They're using all the systems that any other university students would do at Stanford, in Berkeley. Even more because we're teaching them the most advanced tools. Where the professors, as you know, they're more traditional. Mm-hmm. They keep the same course for 10 years, 15 years, and so on. In our case, every year we renew the courses, we renew the material, the most up-to-date tools, because our technology is scaling very fast. And the graduates of these programs, they come out of their bachelor, masters, and they're ready to be productive right away.
Is this a model that's used in other countries? Because, we know that companies like Synopsys and other companies, tech companies in Armenia, are partnering up with universities. And at first, my thing was, why isn't the university being able to do it on its own? So is this a model that is taken from other smaller countries like Armenia?
Actually, we are the model.
We are the model.
The other countries are copying it. We're helping them. We're helping many other countries to use this system. Even most recently, with the CHIPS Act in the US, in Europe, which is, the semiconductor sovereignty that everybody wants to have. There is only one possibility to have the talents, the supply, the workforce. So we provide our program in Armenia to universities in the US to use the same method, to use the same tools, the same curriculum, the same exams, the same projects, to be able to produce productive people who become right away part of their industry.
We should be writing and talking about this more.
It's wonderful, yeah.
Well, look, I mean, there's so many interesting initiatives, and these become levers of soft power as well, right? And when we can show the world a new model, a new pilot that could be applicable in their own countries.
Yes. The advantage of Armenia is that it's such a small country that any experiments that you do, you can see the results immediately. You can improve, you can improvise, but you see the results. That was my satisfaction all along for a couple of decades already. Anything you do, you see the outcome, and then you can.
And it's very easy to make change. It's not like Russia or the U.S. or China or some other large country. It's not even like France. 3 million, barely 3 million people. Yeah. So not only in tech, in anything,
in any domain.
Yeah. When I look at the trajectory of change in Armenia in the last quarter century, I'm amazed. From us not, we didn't know how to stand in line before, right? From behavioral things, right? To how we've been able to change and improve ourselves. It's pretty incredible.
Absolutely.
You've been very active in Armenia, but you've spent most of your professional life in global institutions, right? But always staying rooted in Armenian causes. Has it been a problem to navigate that duality, or is one a natural extension of the other?
It became natural extension. Initially, like many others, like my parents, grandparents, their profession and their Armenian activities were two parallel tracks. They would spend their evenings in Armenian affairs and their days in their own jobs, in their own profession. I was lucky when I came to Armenia, and I was able to advance or to participate in the technology sector in Armenia. Initially doing research groups at AUA, later bringing startups, and then working with those startups, then getting multinationals to buy those startups. And so the technology and my Armenianness touched each other. So there's a point where we crossed in the mid-90s. I felt so happy that I was able to touch the two together. And from there on, I don't see the difference.
Yeah.
For me, working in my domain, yes, I go around the world. I deal with so many companies, so many universities and so on. But at the same time, everywhere I go, my Armenian part is there as well. My co-authors are Armenian. My research work, my patents are with Armenians. So it becomes such a natural thing when you combine the two together.
Yeah.
And not too many people have done that.
No.
I know from my
and that's
parents,
why
they were not
joyful.
able to do it.
You look joyful. You do.
Thank you.
We oftentimes complain about Armenia-diaspora relations. And, I can throw out the same platitudes that we've talked about forever. We don't understand each other's language. We don't understand each other's culture, behavior, all of that. And yet, when I look at some of the most innovative enterprises in Armenia, there's always a diasporan involved in it. So the complaint or the excuse, if I may, and let my diasporan friends forgive me, that it's impossible to work in Armenia, it's not possible to get projects off the ground. You, yourself, and many people like yourself have proven the opposite. Does that still exist, that mentality?
That mentality exists, and it will exist, because diaspora is not one person,
yes, and
Armenia is not one person. You have to have persons who are adaptable, who are adjustable, who are able to trailblazers, who can work with. Yes, there are many others in diaspora who will not be able to do that, and there are many who will be able to work with Armenia. Even inside Armenia, you have people who can collaborate, people who don't. What you need is two groups or two individuals to be the two sides of the bridge, to be able to work with each other. For me, that was the key. Finding my counterparts. Every project that I did, whether technology project, this company, or my AGBU project, Armenian Virtual Project, or HiConnect, or whichever the case, or Apri-Armenia, in each case, we needed a counterpart. If you have a counterpart you can work with, you can spend the overnight calls with, and so on, you can succeed. Otherwise, if you choose the wrong partner, you don't.
Yeah, that's right. Was there ever a moment in your life when you felt lost or uncertain about your path? And how did you find your way through it?
It does happen. It does happen, but for me, it's always looking at the different scenarios. You feel that. You have to look at the next step. Even if you lose in a war, your personal war or the country war, you have to look at the next step immediately. But the next step may not be one.
Right.
Can be multiple. So for me, thinking in scenarios was very useful, because one scenario is bad, but another one will be better. This one is this is where you put your concentration in, but there's an A, B, C, D. If you don't think of scenarios, you're locked into one system, and you can get disappointed, you get frustrated, and so on. But when you look at the multiplicity, you find your way around.
Right. I think I'm going to vote you for Prime Minister of Armenia.
No.
Just kidding.
No, I like permanent jobs.
Yeah, permanent jobs. You don't need one. Oftentimes we think about, we complain that we don't think in terms of systems. We see only a challenge. We don't know how to overcome it. And that's, we trip up when we do that. But obviously, a sign of a good leader is someone who has failed and learned how to find a solution to that. So again, a moment in your life that you considered your greatest failure, and what did you learn from it?
Patience. Because you cannot solve things immediately. Patience is very important. For me, the second important thing after patience is collaboration. Because you by yourself, you cannot do everything. You need your partners. Whether in your family, at your work, in your committee, you need partners to work with. If you have the right partners around you, you come out of those failures.
What does home mean to you? You were born in Lebanon, you moved to the States, you did your PhD at McGill in Montreal, then you moved to Princeton, then you moved to the West Coast, and you told me a funny story that I really wish you would tell us again, when you had to convince your children to move from the East Coast to the West Coast. Where do you feel the most yourself?
Unfortunately, nowhere.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
Because there are very nice things in many places, but I cannot find them all in the one point. That's why you have to spend some time here, some time there, sometime one foot here, 1 foot there. When you get used to very interesting things, exciting things, also problems, you need to be in multiple places. One day, if I will not be able to travel anymore, I'll be miserable, perhaps. Today, I'm able to move from point to point to point, and I see lots of advantages in lots of points. And that makes you homeless.
I think in many ways, many of us are homeless. I always used to say I didn't feel at home in Canada. I always felt like a fish out of water. I used to argue with my father, why did you move from Lebanon to Canada? Because Lebanon seemed like such an exotic, sexy place for me in the 60s and 50s when I looked at my parents' photos. And then I was growing up in Toronto, very conservative. I was considered a minority when I was in school. And then when Armenia became independent, it was like, I'm going to go. And I made the decision in 1988 with the start of the Karabakh movement. It took me till 2001 to move, but it was a decision I took then. And then when people say, where do you feel at home? To me, I say, I don't feel at home anywhere. I feel the most I could possibly feel in Armenia, but I'm never at home here either. It's because I think it's the diasporan reality,
exactly.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It's not only us. Our kids
course.
are the same. I remember my daughter was very young at kindergarten. One day she came home. She said that the teacher asked them to draw their flag. Okay. She said, which one is our flag? Is it the U.S. flag? We were living in the U.S. She was born in Canada. The summer she was in Kesab every summer. And then
why was she in Kesab every summer?
Because my sister has a nice house. We used to send them there. And then, of course, the Armenian flag. And then she ended up drawing the Armenian flag. Okay. But for her, it was a question. And for a 4-year-old kid, it's a question.
How old is she now?
Now she is 35.
And does she still ask that question?
I have to ask her. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know. She's with me here in Armenia. She feels at home.
And she feels at home back in the States as well.
She does, yes.
Yeah, maybe it's just something in our minds that we have to come to grips with.
That's true. Or accept the multiplicity.
Yes.
I mean, you can be 100% here, 100% there, 100% there. Why not?
You've achieved an extraordinary amount in your life. Is there something that you fear the most? Not in terms of tech or geopolitics but in your own life, what is the one thing that you could consider making you feel fearful? Being
lonely. I've always been surrounded by friends, by family, by coworkers. So for me, being alone is I wouldn't say fear, but it's a difficult situation.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, definitely. What is your greatest source of joy? Let me make it easier. Is it something you've built? I mean, obviously, it's going to be our kids, right? That's your greatest source of joy, or your grandchildren if you have. But a ritual or a habit that grounds you?
It's the people around you. For me, my joyful moments is when I'm surrounded with people I love.
Yeah.
Whether it's my grandchildren, I have one now.
Oh, congratulations.
2-year-old grandson, or the larger family, or friends from childhood, from later, from my colleagues. When I'm surrounded with people, I'm joyful.
And when you think about legacy, I think because at some point, as we get older, it's not in the grandiose version of the word, right? Because I think at the end of the day, when we depart this earth, what we've accomplished, the money we've made and all of that, that's fine. But oftentimes it's the people who remember you. That's your most important legacy, at least for me. But when you think about legacy, because you have built things, right? Yes. You have accomplished things.
Maria, I never thought about legacy that I'm building. I did things by default. I did things because I had to do. And if they happen to create a reputation for me, good or bad, that's what it is, right? But I didn't do something in order to create a legacy. Rather, I naturally did certain things which may end up being something useful.
Right, making an impact.
True.
For example, I read that you were one of the founders the founder of the Armenian Virtual College, right? It's a unique platform that connects diasporans to their roots. What inspired you to do that, for example, or what was the need or the gap? Because I always say this, the people who innovate are those who see a gap, a need. So what was that? What drove you to do that?
My kids.
Oh, really?
So we were in Silicon Valley. We didn't have Armenian schools in Silicon Valley, and we believe in Armenian education. We believe that our kids need to speak Armenian. They need to understand the history, they need to understand the culture, and so on. And I remember very well when the internet was just invented. I was in Bell Labs in AT&T, and I took my father to the office. It was during Karabakh time, actually, wartime. So we were able to see the news, to watch certain things, to click a flag, and suddenly the Armenian anthem started to play. I had to close the door of my office, not to disturb the surroundings. But what we understood at that time, I would discuss it that same day with my father, that distances don't matter anymore. Yeah. You can transfer any information. Whatever you don't have, you can obtain it from distance, right? Which is very basic for us today. But imagine in the 90s,
in the
80s. So that was not there yet. So we started imagining, and the Armenian Virtual College concept, based on the need of our kids that did not have schools, came out of there. We said, how about creating courses and following them? How about creating schools? And e-learning. Even though now it's very simple after COVID and so on, it was a new concept at that time. So we looked at how dynamic we can do, how interesting it has to be, and so on. And in 2001, we started already thinking about the Armenian Virtual College as a project of the AGBU Silicon Valley. So I was responsible of the AGBU Silicon Valley, still am. So we sat, we discussed it for our kids, can we create something? And then we started working with engineers in Armenia. To create content and to create the software for it. When I had a sample in hand, I remember I went to one of the AGBU conventions. It was the 100th anniversary, therefore 2006 in Egypt. So I had the chance to present some material. And they loved it. So they stood up, they clapped, and so on. And AGB wanted to invest in it and to adopt it, which was wonderful because I got necessary funding, I got necessary access with all the locations, all the chapters. So it was a wonderful outcome from there. And we started doing the project, and we built a team in Armenia and individuals outside. So e-learning in practice became very, very useful. Today we have over 45,000 e-learners. It's not a small number.
It isn't.
We have another 40,000 e-book readers from our e-books. We have, I don't know how many, 60-some, 67 maybe, schools that use our method in a hybrid mode inside the school using the e-learning. So all these things would happen. Again, you scale and you see this school in Cordoba, that school in Vancouver, that school in Montreal. So it goes on and on. So again, the impact is there.
Right. AGBU has played an important role in your family, for you, your parents. That's the real beauty of the diaspora, wasn't it? I mean, or is it, or it still is rather, organizations that connect us throughout the world. And we talk about, network nation, global nation. And, we talk about it sometimes in a vacuum, but it's so true. And organizations like AGBU have done incredible work and continue to do incredible work. What has it meant for you to be part of that?
It meant a lot in every aspect of my life. It's true. My parents, my grandparents, both my grandfathers.
Yeah, both sides.
Both sides, they were involved. My wife's side. But AGBU for me is a vehicle to give to your nation and to take from your nation. So I took my education from AGBU by going to AGBU schools. I took my abilities to build teams, to communicate, to give talks. So everything came to me from AGBU, and I gave back through AGBU to the next generation, to the next generations, until today to the younger and younger generations. Therefore, for me, it's a wonderful vehicle where there is no disturbance. You don't expect anything in return. Right. You give, and you don't expect anything to come back. But we don't realize
how much we do get from it, right? Not only AGBU, any organization.
Any organization. Yeah. And it gave me, therefore, the education, the soft skills that I had, and so on, but also my wife.
Which is, look, it's very important.
Absolutely. So you see, in every corner I turn, it had an impact on myself.
I want to ask one more question about Synopsys, and then we'll move on. So how did you bring Synopsys to Armenia? You've probably told the story, but...
Yes. So Synopsys did not come to Armenia to start an R&D center. Same thing with other multinationals.
It was an outsourced...
Yes. So what they do is they acquire companies for growth. Synopsys had maybe over 200 acquisitions until now. The last one, last week, a huge one. We acquired ANSYS, a big company. Now, when you acquire companies, they may have locations here or there. So by acquiring 4 companies back to back between 2004 and 10, Synopsys had 4 R&D groups in Armenia. We grouped them together. And so 2 of those I was involved in, 2 of those startups I was involved in, the 2 others not. But suddenly Synopsys had a group of people here. The last company it acquired, Virage, I was part of it as the chief scientist, VP chief scientist of that company. So I suddenly became part of Synopsys as well because of that. Meanwhile, we were very involved in Armenia. And Synopsys, therefore, had about, let's say, 250 to 300 people in Armenia. Now, the good work that has produced through that work allowed us to increase those numbers. So we kept building more and more and more since 2010. Today, over the last 15 years or so, we have developed much more. So
and how many people now work?
Our R&D team is about 1,300.
And that's a pretty big number for Armenia in terms.
It's big for Synopsys as well.
Yeah, for Synopsys.
It is. It is a good percentage of our R&D workforce is here. So it's important for Armenia, but also important for Synopsys. That's why it's critical.
Right.
And whatever we do here has an impact on the rest of the industry because they look at it as an example. They try to whatever rules we put or the benefits we give and so on, it becomes the example. Therefore, we have to be very careful in what we do.
Can Armenia become what is it that we call ourselves, the Silicon Mountains?
You may consider that, yes.
No,
yes.
Can we become that? I'm not sure we are.
That? Yes and no. I mean, if by Silicon Mountains we mean be like Silicon Valley, Silicon Valley has certain advantages that we don't have them in Armenia. We may in the future. At least one thing we may not be able to is the diversity of the population. In innovation, you need diverse people to sit together.
Diverse talents, expertise, backgrounds.
Backgrounds as well.
Why?
Backgrounds, education. because you can innovate, you can think differently and bring ideas together. So it's a given. It's well known that diversity is part of that innovation. But we can do lots of innovation in Armenia, but it's hard to create that much diversity today with today's culture, with today's demographics. Otherwise, the other things we can do.
Are we punching above our weight or not yet?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But there's potential.
There's potential. There's a lot that we can do. Technically, we're doing quite well. Of course, technology is very wide. We cannot be successful in every aspect.
Sure.
But in certain domains, like the microelectronics, the chips that you're mentioning, there we are very advanced. We are at the top level technically. Quantity-wise, as we said before, quantities are limited. But technically, we can be at a good level in certain domains, in certain aspects. Now, again, comparing Silicon Valley to Silicon Mountains here, it's not only the technical people that you need. The advantage of Silicon Valley is that it has the entire ecosystem.
Right.
It has the banker, the lawyer, the this, that, the marketing power, the funding agency. So if you have all of them, and we're building that. If you look at the industry today, we already have the venture capital, we already have the lawyers, so it's coming through. So what we started with a long time ago, it was only the R&D initially. Now, if you look around, you see the ecosystem building. And that's why I'm happy, because it can take its own shape. It can be quite autonomous.
That's pretty incredible. So, a couple of very quick questions. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Early bird or night owl?
Both.
Me too.
How many hours do you sleep?
Not enough. No, I can't survive on 4 hours of sleep. Sorry. But I stay up late. I wake up early. What book is always on your shelf or that you return to?
I have too many. It's hard
I know,
to,
me too.
Yeah, I wish there were not as many.
If you weren't in tech, what would you be doing?
Architecture.
It's your first love. I have to see some of your drawings one day, Yervant. What's a hobby or skill that you've always wanted to pick up, but you haven't had the time or the commitment yet to do?
Music. It's not that I didn't pick. I started, but I don't have enough time. To develop it further.
Right. Do you believe in luck?
Yes.
I do too. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of hard work, but sometimes luck plays a role, doesn't it?
Opportunities are critical.
What's one Armenian word or phrase that you absolutely love or you overuse?
The one I love is something I inherited from my grandfather, which I have never met. Apparently, he says, in many opportunities, «Tiavare hosank niver».
Okay.
Ոչ հոսանքին հետ, հոսանքին հագարակ. So you have to be able to
row against the current.
Exactly.
And it seems like that's what you've, despite the fact that you haven't met him or you never met him, you certainly took that to heart. What's the kindest thing someone has ever done for you?
Loved me. My family.
It always comes back to family, doesn't it? What's your guilty pleasure? Dessert, bad 1980s movies, alcohol?
Not alcohol, not the movies, dessert.
Dessert, you have a sweet tooth. A smell that instantly brings you back to your childhood?
Food.
No, but which one? Like for me, I have two things, mint and cinnamon. You know what I mean? Like a smell, a specific smell that reminds you of...
French fries.
French fries?
Yeah.
You shouldn't say that as a Lebanese Armenian.
Why not?
I don't know, say zakhtar or something.
Zakhtar as well.
Zakhtar as well, right? Of course. Mountains or the sea?
Sea.
What's one thing that never fails to make you smile? Your grandson?
Of course.
Of course. I think you smile a lot, which is lovely. And finally, what's your superpower? 4 hours of sleep at night?
It is.
Yeah, how do you do that?
It is. It's natural from my childhood, but not childhood, but teenage years. I was like that. But that gives me a chance to catch up with things, right? By the time others wake up, I already sent all my requests.
All your emails are done and all things. Yervant Zorian, it's been such a pleasure to have this opportunity to meet with you because, like I said, you're very successful, obviously, and you innovate and you give back to your community, you give back to your country, but you're very joyful, and I hope you always stay joyful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Maria.
Thanks for listening to Up Close and Personal. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow and share the podcast wherever you get your shows. Until next time.